The heavy steel deadbolts slammed shut, cutting off the command center behind us. General Vance didn't sit down. He tossed a classified black dossier across the steel table, looked me dead in the eye and whispered, "You have exactly 60 minutes. If this fails, we lose everything." My hands remained steady as I pulled open the top-secret seal, but the air vanished from my lungs the moment I saw the first photograph. It was a surveillance shot from an operation 5 years ago. A ghost mission that was supposed to have been completely incinerated from military records. Worse, stamped across the top in bold red letters wasn't a tactical objective. It was my real identity, my former unit, and my face. I looked up at the 4-star general and said, "You shouldn't have dug this up." He didn't blink. He handed me the master override key and said, "Take command. My name is Major Evelyn Cross. I am 34 years old, and for the last 6 years, I believed my past was buried under 3 feet of classified concrete. As an elite cyberlogistics operative, I had spent years analyzing threat matrices in sterile, air-conditioned rooms, convincing myself that the dangerous Black Ops projects from my 20s had been successfully scrubbed from every military server on the planet. I was wrong. The underground command bunker beneath the Pentagon felt like a pressure cooker ready to blow. Red emergency beacons pulsed against the soundproof walls, casting long, frantic shadows across the tactical floor. 24 high-ranking analysts were shouting over secure comm lines until 4-star General Thomas Vance stepped into the subterranean FEF. His face was carved from granite, devoid of any warmth. With a flick of his wrist, he didn't just dismiss the room, he evacuated it. "Clear the deck. Everyone out. Now," Vance barked. The sheer weight in his voice left no room for hesitation. Colonels and senior directors scrambled, grabbing their encrypted tablets and clearing the floor in less than 30 seconds. The moment the heavy steel blast doors hissed shut and the deadbolts engaged, the deafening silence hit me like a physical wall. Vance walked directly over to the central steel console. He didn't offer a seat. Instead, he slammed a black wax-sealed dossier onto the table between us. 20 minutes ago, an unauthorized algorithmic breach hijacked our automated defense grid, Vance said, his voice deadly quiet. "It's siphoning satellite targeting systems into a private dark network. In exactly 58 minutes, that rogue protocol locks us out permanently. You built the base architecture of that program 5 years ago, Major. You're the only person alive who can tear it down." My breath caught in my throat. I looked down at the file stamped with my original Black Ops call sign and former clearance level. The timer on the main digital wall started its merciless descent. 57 minutes, 59 seconds. The clock was ticking and the entire national grid was in my hands. The heavy blast doors groaned open, and I stepped out onto the elevated gallery overlooking the central operations floor. The air was thick with panic. Dozens of monitors flashed critical alert warnings, casting an eerie amber glow over 60 bewildered tactical analysts. At the center console stood Colonel Hayes, a 50-year-old veteran with a chest full of combat ribbons, desperately attempting to regain control of the mainframe. "Step aside, Colonel," I commanded. My voice cut through the chaos like a whip. Hayes turned, his face flushed with irritation. He looked down at my rank insignia and sneered. "Major Cross? What kind of joke is this? We're facing a catastrophic Tier 1 system breach and Vance sends me a junior logistics officer? Sit down before you get court-martialed for interfering with emergency protocols." I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I simply slid General Vance's black obsidian master key into the primary console and typed a 24-character route bypass string without looking at the keys. A sharp chime echoed through the floor. The central monitors flashed from amber to solid crimson as my clearance level overrode every terminal in the room. The system displayed my Black Ops call sign across the main stadium screen. "Architect access granted." Hayes froze mid-breath. The murmurs across the war room vanished instantly. "You have 46 minutes before this network permanently encrypts our primary defense satellites," I said, looking across the room. "Every terminal is now slave to my station. Anyone who questions a direct order will be detained by military police. Eyes on your monitors." My fingers flew across the mechanical keyboard. I pulled apart the incoming malicious code layer by layer. The foreign signature wasn't a standard external cyber attack. The intrusion was flowing backward through our internal intranet, using a classified routing protocol that only 5 people on the joint staff had access to. "It's not an external strike," I whispered, isolating the handshake packets. "Someone inside this perimeter initiated the broadcast from a physical port within the building." A chill washed over the command deck as the timer on the wall dropped below 40 minutes. The enemy wasn't across the ocean. They were breathing the same air in this bunker. To catch a ghost inside a locked vault, you don't chase them, you set out the bait. With 32 minutes left on the master clock, I knew the saboteur needed a final digital confirmation to complete the satellite transfer. I initiated a dummy protocol, disguising a tracking handshake as an offshore escrow release of $50 million. Whoever was running this operation wasn't doing it just for ideological chaos. Treason on this scale always came with a massive financial payoff. The bait took less than 90 seconds to hook. A hidden terminal pinged on the server cluster in the Eastern Auxiliary Corridor. But before I could lock down the subnetwork, the war room went pitch black. The hum of hundreds of processing towers died instantly. Emergency sirens wailed as auxiliary battery lights flickered on, painting the entire concrete room in a blood-red haze. "Manual power override in Sector 4. One of the technicians yelled over the alarms. "Stay at your stations," I shouted, drawing my standard-issue sidearm from its holster. I sprinted toward the server room down the corridor, my combat boots slamming against the steel grating. Through the reinforced observation glass, I saw a lone figure frantically jamming an electromagnetic pulse disruptor directly into the primary data core. They were trying to fry the drives to incinerate the digital evidence before I could trace the master recipient. I kicked the door open. "Step away from the console." The figure turned. It was Colonel Hayes. His sidearm was half drawn from his tactical holster, but he was too slow. I closed the distance in 2 strides, redirecting his wrist and slamming him hard against the server rack. His weapon clattered to the floor. With my forearm wedged against his throat, I reached down and ripped the encrypted hardware bypass drive from the console's auxiliary port. "You don't understand what's coming, Cross," Hayes gasped, blood trickling from his split lip. "This system is already obsolete. The buyers already have the root keys." "They have the keys to the front gate, Colonel," I said coldly, zip-tying his wrists behind his back. "Too bad I built the basement." I dragged Colonel Hayes into the hallway and shoved him toward the armed guards outside the corridor. "Keep him in isolation," I ordered. "No comms, no exceptions." I sprinted back into the command center and slid behind the master terminal. The digital timer on the wall read 8 minutes and 42 seconds. The malicious code was devouring the final firewall layers. If the automated transfer hit 100%, our orbital defense satellites would turn deaf, blind, and permanently slave to an off-grid syndicate server. My fingers slammed into the mechanical keyboard, running 3 separate counterscripts simultaneously. But the rogue program countered every move. Hayes's handlers hadn't just stolen my old code, they had modified it into a self-replicating logic bomb. Every time I blocked a port, the algorithm spawned 2 new intrusion pathways. "Major Cross, orbital tracking is dropping off," a lead analyst yelled, panic trembling in his voice. "We've lost telemetry on North American airspace. 3 minutes remaining." The screen flooded with hostile scarlet text. "Critical lockout imminent. Manual override denied." Standard countermeasures were useless. The corrupted failsafe was designed to self-destruct the entire server room, burning the evidence and frying the hardware into scrap metal. I had only one play left. A backdoor contingency I had written 5 years ago during that covert Black Ops project. It was a failsafe I had hidden inside the raw kernel code, completely undocumented just in case an operation went rogue. I disconnected the main intranet cable and forced the console into raw manual assembly code. 1 minute and 15 seconds. 1 minute and 14 seconds. My hands were covered in sweat, but my rhythm was flawless. I typed out the 80-character Deadman cipher. It required an exact hexadecimal match executed across 5 decentralized servers within 30 seconds. One typo would permanently seal the network and trigger total system collapse. 45 seconds. "Major, we're passing 40 seconds." I ignored the voices around me. The world narrowed down to the black screen and the glowing green prompt. I hammered the final sequence and slammed the execute key. 12 seconds. 3 seconds. The terminal froze. The emergency sirens choked and died. Across the war room, 60 monitors flashed blinding white before resetting into clean, steady blue. System recovered. Threat neutralized. I leaned back in the chair, my chest heaving, listening to the collective exhale of the entire room. The heavy hydraulic blast doors finally unsealed with a low hiss, allowing the cool, recycled air of the outer complex to flood the smoke-tinged room. Outside, dozens of armed security details and senior intelligence brass were waiting in absolute silence. The stadium display was now a steady, calm emerald green. All 48 defense satellites were back under localized military telemetry, the corrupted pipelines severed and wiped clean. General Vance stepped through the threshold. He didn't look at the monitors and he didn't look at the analysts standing at rigid attention. His sharp gaze locked directly onto the bruised, zip-tied form of Colonel Hayes sitting against the reinforced wall. "Get him out of my sight," Vance ordered quietly. 2 military police officers hauled Hayes to his feet, marching him down the corridor toward a black site transport. The paper trail I extracted from Hayes's flash drive was already decrypting on my terminal, exposing a network of 14 corrupt officials across 3 defense contractors who had coordinated the attempted sale. The conspiracy was dead on arrival. Vance walked over to my station and placed his hand on the obsidian master key still plugged into the console. For the first time in hours, the tension in his shoulders eased. "The records regarding your past project were scheduled for permanent declassification review next month, Major," Vance said, his voice low enough that only I could hear. "Consider them classified indefinitely. Your service record will show you led a routine system upgrade today. But the Joint Chiefs know what you did here." I stood up, snapped a crisp salute and handed him the decrypted data core. "Just doing my job, General." Walking out of the underground bunker into the blinding dawn light, I felt the quiet weight of the secret I'd carry for the rest of my life. Leadership isn't about the rank pinned to your collar or the medals on your chest. It's about being willing to stand in the dark, make the impossible choice and hold the line when the clock runs out.